here is the cost of living in Moldova and why realistically it's not as cheap as it once was. However, it is a country that is still relatively inexpensive. Hello and welcome back to the Traveling Report. Today I wanted to go over cost of living here in Moldova and how it has changed over the past few years. And additionally, sort of go over what you would need to live a relatively comfortable life. So, in essence, here in Moldova, you have a significant amount of inexpensive eateries and so forth, inexpensive grocery stores, and if you need fruits or vegetables, there are seasonal markets for those things. And so, realistically, going over my experience here in Chișinău, Moldova, you're looking at around $1,000 to $1,500 to live as an expat for a month. Now, that $1,000, $1,500 does include quite substantial luxuries, like you don't have to take public transit, you can use taxis everywhere, you don't have to utilize any of the services that would be, so to speak, less desirable. And on top of that, you indeed are not locked into eating at home every day. However, if you are looking for a place that is somewhat cheaper, somewhat less expensive, it is a place that I would recommend to have on your radar. Now, it is the second poorest nation in Europe, and so thus salaries are not extensive here, and people obviously are more attuned to a cheaper lifestyle, and actually that helps a lot with budgeting, as you can learn from the locals, and once you learn from the locals, you can create better plans. And so I was just at a place eating some food, and for me and my friend, across two people, it was about $10, which is about $5 a person, which obviously that breaks down to $5 for a meal out. You can get a cola here for about $1.50, depending on the grocery store. You can get a taxi across town for about $3 to $4, and you can get a solid amount of groceries for probably $200 a month. Now, rent is something that varies significantly. In central Chișinău, it can be as large as $1,000 to $1,200 a month. But if you go out into the suburbs or close to the suburbs, you're looking at closer to $600 if you're really not trying for a 2-bedroom. For a 1-bedroom, you're looking at maybe $300, truly, if you're not trying. Now, I will put a video of walking through apartments here in Chișinău for your viewing pleasure in the description down below. But, of course, I do not currently have that out. So, regardless, I'll be talking more with landlords and agents. If you need a website to look up these sorts of things, 999.md is the place to sort of look. It's a local classified site. That said, what you can expect from that $1,000 to $1,500 monthly budget is a pretty darn good life. You're fairly close to everything. You're able to go out and have a beer or two every week. You're able to go out a few times a week. And so, in essence, it's a pretty good life. That said, of course, the national salary is much lower. I think the average net salary is around $600 a month in Chișinău, but in the villages it can be as low as $80 a month. So I think the national average is closer to around, if I had to guess, 200 to 300 a month net. Now, gross, that's a little bit higher, and obviously if you look at the averages online, they are a bit higher. I'll pop up a article on screen of what the average gross salary is. However, that's including all benefits, all fringe benefits, that's including taxation, and so at the end of the month, they're not pocketing all of that money. Now, that said, there is a large gray market economy and black market economy here in Moldova, which creates more pricing pressure than would be seen on the surface, which obviously does increase the cost of living here quite substantially. And additionally, with all the EU money flowing in for reforms, the inflation has been fairly high. Also, as I mentioned on another video, Chișinău is not building new apartments at a solid rate, and zoning here is fairly abysmal. And so that increases pricing pressure a lot. And so obviously if you're looking for cheap real estate, go to Romania. Romania has so much less pricing pressure, and I'll also go over like the contrast between Balti and Chișinău in an upcoming video fairly soon, because Balti is significantly cheaper than Chișinău is, and that creates a nice dynamic if you're looking for a relatively inexpensive city. It's only about 2.5 hours out. I'll be putting up some of the future videos on cost of living across cities. I think that it's important to not necessarily just look at the country, which can be extremely deceiving, but also the cities themselves. And so this was just a general overview of Moldova, but I will be expanding upon the cities that I cover here fairly soon. If you're at all interested in this sort of a series, feel free to subscribe. If you're really looking for personalized advice on where to live, how to get residency in different countries, what to do on this sort of an issue, feel free to book a call one-on-one, 15 minutes, absolutely free. And if you like the video, feel free to like it. If you really like the video, feel free to share. And of course, this has been the Traveling Report, signing off.